Knowing your emotions. Emotions can be compared to a small stream. As the days go by, there may be debris or mud that builds up in the stream and forms a dam. When rain falls or water levels rise, the buildup might form a little pool of water. But eventually the stream will no longer be able to hold the pressure. That pressure that is built up. And once the pressure becomes too much, the stream will find a new channel or direction to go. Or it might burst that little dam or flood over the banks. Our feelings can be like this. And if we don't take responsibility for them, they may build up until they become unpredictable and hazardous, sometimes expressed in a form of emotion or physical violence. Hey everybody, welcome. This is chapter 2 of the Male Engagement, A Guide for Men, the Compass book, Compass Guide, put out by the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. And we're going over knowing your emotions. My name is Gene Tagaban, and my Tlingit name is Gayal. I'm of the Duckdane Ton clan, Raven Freshwater Sucker clan from Huna, the child of a Wishkatan Eagle Shark clan from Juan in Juneau. I'm Cherokee, Tlingit, and Filipino. And it's really good to be here. To be able to share, just to bring some insight on the wellness and healing of men. And I got my brothers here, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Go for it, Doug.
My name is Doug Kester, and my genetics come from, my ancestors come from Germany and Great Britain, and they were subsistence, farmers and hunters and gatherers, and I am so honored to be here with my other two brothers here. It's one of my favorite things to talk about and be a part of, and try to work on myself and try to hopefully help other people, discover something within that might help them or their families and ancestors.
Right on, thanks, Doug. Johan.
Hello, my name is Johan Atkinson. I'm of the Wolf Clan of the Tsimshian Nation here in Metlakatla, Alaska. We are the only reservation here in the state of Alaska. As like my brothers, it's an honor to be here and to be able to share this space with you all.
Right on. And anybody out there too, just thank you so much for viewing and coming on here. And again, we're just going to be going, we're going through this here time of this little workout, this little workbook here. And it's called Compass, put out by the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. And what happened was a few years ago, maybe about 5-6 years ago now, there was a call that men just wanted something, a resource, some way to start the conversation, some way to engage, some way to teach. And so we got together several people from many organizations in Alaska and elders and tribes to come up with something, a solution to the question. And so through many meetings, brainstorming, good things, and good discussions and some arguments, we just came up with this guide. And the three of us, we've decided just to, during this time, just to go online and just to provide some insight, some teaching, some lessons, some discussion. And that's what it is. This year workbook is just to start the conversation. Start the conversation. The first chapter was knowing who you are. The second chapter on here is knowing your emotions. The third chapter is respect for self. Fourth, respect for others. Then there's communication, conflict resolution, and becoming a man. And so with the short time that we have here today, we'd like to go through chapter 2, knowing your emotions. And the simple way to feel your feelings is to simply feel them. We have a little quote here. And basically, we're just going right through this just to teach you how to use this. When you get this in your hands, you'll learn how to use this and start your own groups with your families, other men, young boys, teenagers, whoever it is, maybe. And so that was that first quote. And through this lesson, young men will be able to understand the range of emotions that men experience and gain skills to confidently express those emotions. Hey, Doug, why don't you share that next part that in yellow right below that?
You know, and so much of it is like helping others and helping yourself to like know what you're feeling. Because it can be hard, man. We've kind of suppressed these things for a long time. In fact, on that note, I read this study just the other day of like men had the option of getting electrical shocks or just sitting there and like reflecting on how they were feeling. And you know what they chose? They chose electrical shocks because guys don't like it. We don't like to sit with it, man. We like to be active and get out there and move it. And just like, it's hard. It's hard.
You know what? Hey Doug, thank you for, it's like, let's be real here about knowing your emotions. Because when we start talking about this, talking about feelings, talking about emotions and all those things, I know we started off with Johan with the flute, and it was really cool. It was a good way to get started, spiritual. I had the little smudge there, and I went in here and explained everything. But and I was like going, oh, let's do this. But right on, Doug. Let's get real here. Knowing your emotions, men, we don't like to talk about these things. We don't like to talk about our feelings, and it's like as if we weren't taught to discuss these things, and it's like you said, we'd rather get electrical shock than have to talk about our feelings, and those things, it's like, it's crazy. That's how men are. I've been the same way. I take a look at my uncles growing up, my grandfathers, and one thing's like, I remember this one time, my dad, I was underneath the swing set, and first of all, he told me, don't stand under the swing set. He's putting it together. And I stood right under it. And he dropped a hammer right on top of my head. And immediately he just jumped off that ladder, jumped down, looked at me right in the face. He goes, don't you cry. Don't you cry. Don't you cry. Huh? Be man. Man, don't cry. And I'm just standing there going, not a sound. And then I ran inside the house, and I'm doing this thing right in front of my mom. I'm just going. And my mom looks at me, and she's like going, what happened to you? I'm asking you a question. What happened to you? And I just blurted out, Dad dropped a hammer on my head. He told me not to cry. He said, man, don't cry. And I was like going, and then my mom looked at me and said, BS. Does it hurt? I go, if you need to cry and express yourself, then cry. And I went, ah! Like I was singing a native song. Ah! Ah! But anyways, that's what I was just, I was taught. What about you guys? What about you, Johan? It's like.
Yeah, first, when I was younger, I think on the giving the option to talk about your emotions, I get shocked. I would first say, how bad of a shock is? What's the voltage first?
That's right.
Is it something that's going to make my hair puff up, or is it vulnerable? And then I would kind of give it some thought on which direction I'm going to go. But yeah, I think that's all too common, Gene, for young men to grow up with that type of hearing those things. I remember when I was younger, it was the same thing for myself as well. Not seeing men express their emotions. And I'll tell you what, the day that I did, I still remember it. And it was probably my earliest memory. Was about 6, 7 years old, was when I seen someone close to me, a grown man, crying. And from 6 to 7, I don't really recall too much till about 10. But when I was younger, in that early age, that's one thing that always stuck with me, So it was one of the things that is a such a powerful moment in our life, and being able to express those emotions, and to, as young men, to see those emotions, you know. But growing up, it's pretty common for, no matter what culture you're in or where you're from, to have that men are supposed to perceive this certain macho image.
Exactly. And I see it. And what a time right now just to be discussing this about knowing your emotions. I mean, because 10 years they might be to take a look at this video, and I just want to say this right now. We're making this in a time of a pandemic, and a time of revolution. Of facing racism and social justice and these things. And so. There's a lot of emotions going on, and and for myself, I mean, I'm feeling these things, and there's times where I just want to, I'm okay with it, and stuff, and there's times I just want to just scream and yell, and and be appropriate with how I feel, and honest with how I feel as well. And I'll tell you what, if I was a younger man, those emotions might come out in a way of self-destructive behavior. Like I would have been maybe smoking more weed, or even drinking more, or whatever, or I don't know. I don't really even know how or anger, yelling at somebody, or getting into a fight, and which, yeah, when I was younger, that's the way I expressed myself. Or I would just be quiet, and I would just disappear. And like they say nowadays, I would just ghost out or something, So it's interesting, man.
Gene, you brought up anger, which is such an important one. So I want to focus on that one for a second, because anger's got kind of a bad rap. I mean, men have hurt people, hurt their wives, hurt their children, hurt each other, hurt themselves, and anger is one of those ones that, God, could come out in such freaking unhealthy ways, and I mean, that's a big part of what we're doing right now, is we're trying to keep ourselves and people from getting hurt, because we're just done with that. It's got to end, It's been too much violence, and so much of it comes from men. But at the same time, anger is such a powerful emotion, man. It's like, it gives you, like, you feel it in your body, and it goes through your extremities, and it's like, it's powerful. It is,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not good, because anger can also drive you to change the world. It can drive you to change yourself. It can do so. It can give you power, and I love that, and I love that part of it. And I think what happens, because I've been really thinking about this, is we go into, because we have been so suppressed, we're like, oh, you're not supposed to, share that emotion. Maybe it's grief, and it kind of can transform inside of us, and it can turn to anger. And when we flip into like that fight or flight response, we're all back here in our reptilian heads, and we end up cutting off ourselves from other people around us. And you do things that you end up regretting. I know, because I'm in dad school every single day. And I got 2 little kids, man. And I want to tell you, the studies also show that young boys have more emotions than young girls. Like, they're more emotionally expressive when they're little. And I can tell you it's true, because they test me every single day. And what I'm trying to do now is give myself a time, just a little bit of space and time before I express that anger, to click in those other parts of myself that are a little more like forward thinking, like maybe can see a little bit of empathy of, like, if I do that, they're going to do this, and then I'm not going to get the response that I want, and I'm just going backwards. So it's almost like it's okay for guys to go into their cave for a moment and just like feel it without having to push it out and lightning bolt someone around you. And I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
What
great
about you,
point.
Johan?
Yeah, I just want to go off what Doug said. Taking that time for yourself when we get angry, that's a struggle that I have as well, then that I'm learning. Excuse me. That I encourage for all men to learn, to not act on your emotions, to not act on when you're angry. You know, take that time to let things process in your mind. And it's easier said than done because of how society has focused on men suppressing their emotions. And on that story that you read, this when we first started, Gene, on the dam building up, you know, taking that time to be able to really analyze on how the stream is reacting to this situation. And that's a perfect example, Doug, is, you know, really looking on the cause and effect. And so just taking that time and being able to take a moment, take a step back. And even if you're pissed, there's times where I've been extremely pissed off on situations with family and friends or the outcomes of what's going on in the world. But being able to take that time, that's really important for us to reflect on how we are feeling. And like I said, you know, easier said than done, but this is something that can be learned. And when we express that and do those actions, that's making the perfect example for the next generation, because we're trying to end all the abuses and all the toxic mindset that we all grew up with. Enough is up. Enough is enough. Time to change things for the better and be that change. And I think that's one of the great approaches on what Brother Doug, on what you said, Doug, was taking that time, taking that moment when you need to. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really great point.
You know, exactly. I mean, it's like men, that's like the first thing is like, God, that anger. That's a emotion. When you talk about emotions and men, that's, you know, that's at the top of the list, anger. And, you know, oftentimes too, when I run groups with men, because anger itself is an energy. It's an energy. And so we'll just start becoming aware of that energy. You know, what is that energy of anger? What is that? You know, and how is it being expressed? Because you could, like, if you're really angry, man, and just like you said, brother, you know, Johan's like, you're just pissed. I mean, I've seen people and they can change the whole dynamic of a room, a large room with so many people. You know, just think of that, what that's like if they walk into like a house where there's only a few people, like your kids, your wife, or your partner. You know, if you could change the dynamics of a room, or just with that emotion, that anger, you know, just think about how powerful it is in just a small space. You know, and anger can change a room that way. You know, and anger can also, is like, it can be destructive, but anger can like save your life too. It can motivate you. I mean, there's been times where I've been caught out. This one time I was going down, I was in a whitewater kayak. I'm kayaking and I flipped over, and I just and I'm floating. I'm out, and this water's cold, and I'm just going down the rapids, hanging onto my kayak, hanging onto my paddle, and I was just going, didn't know which way to go. And then there's something just went boom, just snapped at me, and I just got just going, okay, just let that rage, this anger go, okay, now I gotta get out of this. I gotta get out of it. But I still didn't let it overtake my thinking. I still had to think rationally. But I was just like that anger and that rage. It's like it's an energy to take over. Okay, and I got to keep going with the flow and find my way out of this thing. But I couldn't so I let my anger it's helped me survive. There's a purpose to it. There's a purpose to our anger.
I had that same experience. Same. It's like you still got I was climbing this mountain right out here, Mount Juneau, and it's easy to go up, but then I look down and I'm like, if I slip right now, I'm dead. I'm like over this waterfall. And I just felt this, like, I'm not gonna freaking die, you know, and I felt this superpower, but I still had to maintain a grace. So you have to
You had
balance
to
that
keep-
energy
yeah.
and that also that grace of movement. And God, there's nothing better than like, losing your life or the threat of that, to like help hone that skill. Hopefully we can hone it without that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, on both on those concepts and on what you two were saying, you all started both those journeys, your journey down the rapids and your journey up the mountain and back down the mountain. I imagine when you all first started, it was nothing but happy emotions. I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy to be on this adventure.
Yeah, yeah.
And as we're on our journey,
We were excited. We're
Yeah.
in excitement, actually,
and then the emotions change into anger, and having control and taking the time to still have control of those emotions, you were still able to reach your destination. I love that. Those are perfectly great examples, and I think, and I just want to share a little bit about with myself, and I really didn't really understand taking the time to take a step back and control my emotions up until like 3 years ago, and that was only because I've heard it being said from other men. And when I heard other men saying that, and then it kind of resonated more, I knew that I wanted to do that throughout my growing up from childhood to manhood. But hearing that was powerful to me. Hearing that, you have to take your time, take a step back, and have control over your emotions. And I love that you two were still able to share those stories and how you took control of those emotions and still reach the end of your journey. That's beautiful.
That's an awesome point there, Johan, too, because that joy, that excitement is also an emotion, and just to be able to enjoy that. I mean, that is an emotion in itself. And so just going in there with that joy, that excitement, that passion, and even, courage, and it breaks down to like, man, I'm like down in here. And then it's like kind of like fear is an emotion as well. Fear, and then anger and rage, still keeping my thoughts. But the thing is, I want to ask you this too, is like, how did you feel at the end? Because when I finally made it to the beach, I'm relieved. Oh man, okay, I made it. That too is an emotion. I made it. And then my buddy came down. He goes, man, that was rad, dude. All right, get back in. Let's keep going. I'm like, oh, no way, I'm done. He goes, no, we got to keep going. You got to get back in that kayak and keep going. And I was like going, all right, man. And so it's like emotions can just go boom, 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 whatever it is, and so it's like, it's just becoming aware of that, man. It's like, yeah.
So true. If we don't become aware of it, like you said, the emotions end up driving us instead of us driving the situation. You're just like a boat out there with no rudder or steering wheel, just flopping around because they're coming through us. We're feeling them every day. Don't let anyone tell you guys aren't feeling them, because they are. Yeah, we can push them away. We have that power to be like, oh, I'm going to distract myself or do something to not feel this or whatever. But we're feeling them, and it's, if we don't honor ourselves enough to like say and really check in, then we're just driving without any chance of steering it.
Exactly. I want to ask you guys this. And again, we just busted into this, knowing your emotions, and we got right into anger, man. We're talking about all these emotions, which is good. But here, what I'm talking about so far, we've been talking about is self-reflection on that, on our emotions and even that anger. Now, each and every one of us, you have children. I don't have children, but I'm in a relationship. I got my wife and, even my dogs, but even I've had past relationships, and I'll tell you what, I haven't been physically abusive, But I got to admit, man, there's been times where I have thrown some words out there, you know, where it's been emotionally abusive to my partner, the relationship I was in. I've been mentally throwing stuff out there, you know, even spiritually, you know. And if I was going to say I was like physically abusive, because words can hurt your partner, man. It can just like bring them down, tear them down, you know, where it just like hurts their heart. And although I may not lay a hand on them, but even our Tlingit ways, our native ways, they say that the word can be hurt more than being hit with a stick, because it sticks, it stays, you know. And so even if I wasn't physically, I didn't physically lay a hand on them with the word, it's like just dug a deep spike into the heart of my partner, you know. And it's just that brought him down, and physically I saw it, you know. When I was younger, I mean, I'm not saying I think I did. No, I know I did. And I had, you know, and I have to learn about that. You know, for instance, Ruby, my wife, you know, and we've talked about that. And even when I first came into this relationship, we would argue. You know, we do. We have our disagreements, but we had to make ground rules, because one of my things was like, I would just done. I'm walking out. I'm leaving the room. I'm out of here, man. I would just take off, drive, ride my bike, go into the whatever. I'm just gone. I'm not dealing with this, man. I'm not dealing with this, you know. And so one of our ground rules, and we had to talk about our ground rules while we were in a good mind, not when we're all mad and stuff like that. That's not the time to talk about these things. But when we're like, okay, you know, we had an argument. Okay, what do we need to do? You know, and but one of our ground rules is that I can't just get up and leave, but I need to take a time out. And so we allow that. I just need to take a time out. And another ground rule that we both agree on is that we don't call each other's names. No put downs. We don't call each other names or anything like that. You know, and those are, because things will get heated. We're in a relationship, you know, and that's just the nature of a relationship too, you know. And so those are some of the things too. I mean, I've had to take a look at myself and admit, because in a relationship with my partner, God, you know, and I know I have a lot of energy, and so I can like, and they feel it. And so I've hurt people in the past, you know, and I'm learning how to be a good man in my relationship now. And it's ongoing. I mean, that's why I do this work that I do. I get to talk it out and stuff. You know, how about you guys?
I love that how you said it's an ongoing process. You know, this is a whole on this path. It's not easy to be able to unlearn what we have learned, you know, and I'm pretty sure almost all men can relate to that, where we have done things that we regret. We have hurt people emotionally, physically, and spiritually, you know. Well, yeah, you know, and that's a really great example. And I'm glad that we are having this discussion where other men can hear on ways that work for us, you know. And like with myself, you know, like I said, I really didn't understand and slow down until I was about 36 years old. So, and my path was a lot different than seeing other men on their own path, whether they are acting appropriately, whether they're keeping their community safe, or whether they're they're the perpetrators, or if they're just beginning to start that path. You know, we're all different. We're all on different paths right now, and having those ground rules, that's a really great example. And that's actually, I probably only heard that probably one time in my life. This is the second time I've heard someone say that. And you know, that's one of the things that I want to start doing in my relationship and in my family, even with our friends, and in your community, laying the ground rules and sticking to them and not acting on emotion, taking that time to to process everything. That's it helps. It helps men know that other men are taking these steps into bettering themselves to keep their community safe. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
That's so perfect, Johan. I know that is, if it's, you're going to find a reason to change or make this work happen, it's because we're trying to keep our loved ones safe. And, it takes courage. Takes courage to look at your emotions and be vulnerable with your emotions. And man, I always go back to that idea of like, oftentimes I read a bunch of stuff about this, and guys are like, oh, don't tell your emotions to your girlfriend or your partner because they'll just use it against you, and if you make yourself vulnerable, they're going to come in and they're going to hurt you and or lose you. And I really wanted to talk about that because it's such a, people are afraid of it. And one thing is I just always make it clear, like, nobody's more vulnerable than a warrior, at some point, that has to like risk their life to like protect others and protect their loved ones. And it takes courage. And sometimes this is the new, for me, a lot of it is inside. Like, our new warrior power is not like fighting all these people out here, because I come from warrior ancestry too. And we're turning it inward. We're turning it inward and learning how to, basically, that battle's inside, and it's hard. It's hard. And, in society, we often are given this choice to like dominate or be dominated. And I feel like one thing that happens is you're like, if I don't get all fired up and dominate, my woman or this situation or that guy, then I'm going to be dominated, and I just have to curl up and they're going to dominate me. But I think emotions give us another way. They give us that other way out of like, if we could just be conscious of them. And you can always step back and be like, look, I need to take a step back, instead of like that tidal wave of emotion and using that to like try to dominate, or just like, instead of just trying to hide or run from them, they give us a chance to like feel it in your body. And I know that sounds, like I said at the beginning, man, guys don't want to feel this stuff. It's intense. But that is, for me personally, that is like where I've adjusted my warrior ways inside, to be able to sit with it and to feel it and not attach this story to it. Because what we do is we cycle these emotions with stories. We connect our story and ourselves, and we keep being like, they wronged me and I'm upset because of this. If you can like sit with an emotion without putting that story constantly on it, you can feel their power, and that power will guide you and help you.
Well, that's interesting you talked about that. I mean, just our story, because we are a story. Our life is a story, and some of us, our emotions, we get at it. We grew up, we had a pretty good story. I mean, some of us did, but some of us had a really hard story. Some of those kids now, those kids I work with, man, it's like they've had some hard times. They've had some hurt. They've had some abuse, violence perpetrated against them, and in many forms, and then as they grow up, that story just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating, and there's no trust, lack of trust too. And when they get into a relationship, if whatever that relationship may be, and and even some friendship too, which is a relationship, and so it's like those stories keep repeating. So what do we do? I mean, when we got these emotions, we got these things. I mean, how do we heal? Because it's all about healing, and healing's an ongoing thing, man. We're born. And our whole life, it's my belief is our life is a healing journey. Until until I pass on. And even as an ancestor, I still believe that I'm going to be healing as an ancestor, you know, and so it's a, but while we're here at this time, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, Johan, what do we need to do to heal as men, especially when it comes to around emotions?
You know, one of the things that has helped me personally is being able to communicate, being able to communicate with others and ourselves, you know, being able to understand on what we're feeling, you know, and with myself, I had to actually speak those words on what I'm feeling. And at times where I'm by myself, when I'm in the forest, or when I'm down by the stream, speak those words, because our words have power to them. Our words could lift someone up, could lift ourselves up, could hurt ourselves, you know, and being able to communicate and knowing that I wanted to be able to process my emotions in a healthier way, and having the ability to tell that to people in my circle. I know that I need to communicate better. I know that I need to be a better person, and there's some things that I need to overcome. And once I communicated that with other people and myself, then it helped people in my circle become aware of that. And they helped me, and they understood that I wanted to communicate. And I believe that all of us have people in our lives that care for us, whether they're in our circle or not in our circle. We have people that want to help us. And being able to communicate that, where can sometimes be the hardest thing that we could do, is because that's a form of asking for help in a way, you know. Communicate. I want to overcome these emotions. I want to strengthen my spirit. And when you're communicating that, you know, people sometimes, it's often viewed as that you're asking for help, and coming from a man, we have been taught that that's a sign of weakness, when really, as hard as it is to ask for help sometimes, and hard as it is where you say that I want to learn this, that takes strength. That takes a lot to be able to say those words. And that's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength, because it takes a lot, especially for now men in this society, because all cultures around this world, we have to perceive and be this macho person, or men don't cry. But it's only been that way on this continent for this little tiny sliver of time. We've always understood our emotions. We've always had that balance with each other and ourselves. And up until colonization, all those where we only pick certain emotions. Okay, it's only acceptable to be happy as a man. It's only acceptable to act like this and say this. Where all these other emotions, we're taught to not be able to talk about them or act on them or process them. So it's being able to communicate with myself and others was a huge step in my life. And I think that's is crucial for us to be able to communicate that with our loved ones in our circle. And even if you can't do it right now in your path with others, that's okay. Work toward that, stay on that path and communicate with yourself. Just say those words for the first time, because sometimes it might be most of the time, might be the first time a man has ever said that. I need help. I want to get better. And having those have that communication with yourself is vital in us healing from our path and staying on the healing journey to keep our community safe, because that's what we all want. We want our communities to be safe, but we have to have a good understanding of how we respond to situations as well.
Right on. I want to ask you this thing, John. When we talk about communication, you know, you're talking about vocalizing and saying these things and asking for help, which can be difficult. I mean, I'm right in there as far as like I have a hard time asking for help sometimes myself. You know, sometimes they say it's that oldest child syndrome or whatever it is. You know, I'm used to doing it, but that's vocalizing. But also, I mean, it's like, what other forms of communication is out there? You know, and how do we communicate other than with just words? I mean, you know, I know silence can be communication too, or facial expressions. You know, that's one thing. My wife, she says she can just tell how I feel just by the way I look. She goes, she'll ask me, are you okay? Anything bothering you? You know, I'm like going, no, I'm fine. But then she'll be like, well, tell your face.
And that's pretty common I think that's something that we all do. You know, people ask us, what's wrong? And our first reaction, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong at all. You know, but you could tell by our energy, by how we're walking around, you know, slamming doors, and even becoming silent with our partners, our family, and our community. You know, it's so. Yeah, there are many forms of communicating, and I guess taking the time to reflect on how we are perceiving and sharing our energy, on how we are filling that space is important, you know. And all these things take time. All these things we have to learn. We have to get in a habit and tell ourselves, and sometimes even writing those things down on a paper.
Yeah.
So they're constant reminding us on healthy ways to be able to process, you know. And this is an ongoing thing, you know. Like you said, even when you're an ancestor, you know, we're probably still going to be healing from all the traumas that we need to
All the
heal.
traumas, yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, and being conscious of all of our forms of communication. And I think when you gave the example of with your partner, I'm pretty sure everybody at one point has done that, or is still doing that. Is nothing's wrong at all. Nothing's bothering me, but on how we're talking, on our tone, yeah, there's ways to be able to handle those in a more healthier way. And it just takes practice. It's just a lot of self-reflection, you know, because there's no shortcut to this, especially in the way society is, because we hear all the time, till this day, right now, our young people are being taught that there's a certain way that they have to act. Well, we are here to tell them that you don't have to deal with all these stressful times and have to suppress our emotions. And that's not our way. Our souls and our brain were meant to experience so many emotions, and to be able and to have any of them suppressed, you know, we're just doing ourselves, you know. We're handling those, and that hurts our spirit, you know. Yeah.
Hey, Doug, what do you have to add, or maybe you have a totally different thought that's in another direction? Hey, real quick, I'm going to take off real quick. My computer's about to die, and I got to plug it in. I got to go get the charger. I'll be right back.
Problem.
But continue on, brother.
Hey, you know, it's funny. We were, I wasn't even meaning for this to be part of it, Johan, but we were talking at the beginning about like telling your story to like a tree, or even a river, or a rock, or something like that. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe you don't feel safe or comfortable enough to talk to another person, your wife, you know, or somebody in your community. Go out in nature, man. Nature listens with the most unjudgmental listening that can ever happen. And for me, that's like, it's been really powerful for me to like say your words to a tree or a rock, and I'm a believer in that. And then the other part that it's been, you know, we had an elder the other night. We were on our men's circle, and we were talking to and Doug Modig said something that's been hitting me over and over. And he's a native elder, and he said, you know, we got to use our best science. We got to, like, use a science that's just another way of like looking at things. And man, the science of like emotions and the chemicals and these things that are happening inside of it, we're learning more and more every day. And I think it really can help us in a way. And I just want to say two things about that, because it's not what we think, you know. Well, testosterone, we talk about that. That's like the guy emotion, and it does help us, man. It helps us push through things, and it actually they're finding like it helps relieve stress. Like testosterone for men relieves stress, and estrogen for men actually builds stress up inside of us. And all those are those the hormones that whatever, you know, women and men are supposedly having, right? So sometimes it's true when we, like, our partners say, hey, I want you to talk, what are you feeling? And for as guys, we're like, I don't even know what I'm feeling. What am I feeling? Because that happens to me all the time. I'm like, I don't know, because I got my like guy on that's like in the woods, and like we can't deal with all these emotions. We're hunting, or maybe we're doing something else. You're not dealing with all the emotions. Guys have the power to like turn them off, and sometimes it's hard to get back to it. And they say when we, as we get pushed into and cornered to expressing our emotions when we don't want to like our partner, it actually changes us. We develop more estrogen. And what happens sometimes is you feel this estrogen like allows you to feel emotions more intensely, but that like pushes us into a corner, and we do explode. And sometimes it's that feeling, because we're like, I don't want to talk about this. And the reason I'm saying this is because I just want to put it out to my guy brothers. Like, we're not saying that you have to like just expose every part of you to everyone around you. I'm not saying that. Sometimes you are guarded, and you are like, you want to like go in your cave and feel them a little more intensely, and just like feel like, what is it? What's at the root of it? What, you know, when did I start feeling this way? Why do I feel this way? And that's your exploration, you know. You don't need to like give all that power out to someone else. We want honesty, and we want truth, and we want like all that stuff. But I just want to say that like, you can do it on your time. If you're not hurting anyone, you can do it on your time, and it's okay.
Right on, Doug.
Yeah. So really quick, I want to add on something that I heard that really helped me. There was a elder that told me one time on how he was able to process his emotions. He had a lot. He said he was feeling a lot of buildup, and he went into the forest. And he hiked up on top of this mountain, and then he just started talking. He started talking about everything that he was going through, and it was just him, because he felt comfortable with it. Was just him, and it was nature, and that's real. You know, a lot of us still have a hard time, and maybe we'll always have a hard time in opening up because of our past experiences, whether they be good or bad. Have a hard time opening up and talking about these, and are talking about our emotions. But going out into nature, you know, there was nothing but trees around, and he told me that he was able to share everything that he was feeling, all the hurt, all the joy, everything, talk to his ancestors, and he had a really good cry, and that made him feel so much more better. And this is an individual that my whole entire life, when I was my childhood, he was like the macho of the macho men, you know, tough and always fishing and always had grease on him from working on engines. But when he told me that, you know, it really resonated with me, and really kind of opened my eyes on there's many traditional ways that we have always taken care of ourselves that we don't do now. And again, that was just last year. So that was a learning experience for myself as well, just sharing that.
So, oh gosh, I mean, there's so much to talk about with this. I mean, as you're talking, both of you are sharing these stories. so much is coming to me about, that healing part of it too. And, and I remember so one time I was about 32 years old, just got out of a relationship. And so many of our young men have these self-destructive behaviors around relationships because they define themselves through the relationships. That's why the earlier is about knowing who you are, as an individual. But I remember when I was 32, I was like in Anchorage, got out of a relationship and traveling around a bit. And then I just pulled over on the side of the road on the beach, and something just told me I turned around and there was this mountain. And I got to get to the top of it. I was in my shorts, tennis shoes on, didn't even have a shirt on. And I just started running. And there happened to be across the highway, there was a trail that went up there. I just started running. And I ran for like 2 hours straight, right to the top of this mountain, and people are passing by me, and I seen this crazed Indian guy running up this mountain, man. I didn't even have water. And just something, because what happened was I just got out of this relationship. Things that just building up. So I ran to the top of the mountain. I got to the top of the mountain, and this here breeze, like just warm breeze. I'm at the top, and I just stood there, my arms out, just let this breeze go over me, and allowed it as if it just like was cleansing me. And water does the same thing. Allow the water and the breeze to cleanse you and cleanse me. And a hawk flew right behind me and stuff. And I was like, at that moment, I knew I was with ancestors, and ancestors were watching over me, and things were going to be good. Then I made my way down, and as you said, sometimes going up is the easy part, but coming down can be the hardest part, man, off that mountain, and stuff. And so I made my way down, and God, I was so thirsty. I remember how thirsty I was. And, but that's something I'll always remember, because even to this day now, when those emotions come up, those heavy, just negative emotions, self-destructive emotions come up, I'll ride my bike, get it out. Or I'll go to the water, get in the water. It's our traditional way. Go talk to the trees, because that's mine. I own that. That's my stuff. It's not my wife's or dog's or anybody else around me. That's mine. And then when I'm ready to communicate, talk about it, then I'll share it in that way, in that good way. But I also want to say, I just want to point out too, is like sharing those emotions, those good joys, man. So many times, man, we forget to share our successes. We forget to share our joys, what we're joyful for, because we might think that we look like a dork because we like this here. We saw this, oh man, I saw this cute little puppy the other day. Oh my God, it was so cute. It was just beautiful, man. And we don't want to share this thing that we want to share because we're like, think, oh, I don't want to look like this here, like this dork, and or we saw something or whatever it is. But those joys too, man, we got to share those as well. And that's a powerful emotion. Those are powerful emotions, man. Like with your kids. It's like, yeah, whatever those things, that meat has meaning to us, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's being authentic. I love that, because
Yeah.
being authentic to yourself and living in today's society, one of the biggest reasons why it's hard for men to be able to express themselves, because of being judged, of what people think of us. Oh, I don't want people to think that I'm weak. I don't want people to label me, because I'm talking about things that move me. I'm talking about things that make me happy. And being in this society, it's awesome to be your authentic self and to be able to understand those emotions. And that's a really great example, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because all those joy and those happy feelings, that's when you express those and when you acknowledge those and be real with those, it's going to help in so many other aspects of your life. Us processing anger, sadness, and that could be a first step, great first step. And that's understanding and acknowledging that joy and those happy emotions and being able to express them freely.
I just want, we're coming close to the end of our time here, and I just, and we don't even need any prod nor anything to just get us started in the conversation, right, man? I mean, it's like we're even before we started this, we're like already talking about this, and so with this compass here, I mean, this is again a guide to help start the conversation, and we have no problem starting the conversation with us. But those of you who are out there, there's also in here, there's some questions in here, in this guide, and it's called Talking It Out. And these are just questions in it just to help with the conversation, get it going. Everything that we've been talking about. But if you have some, to get it going, it's like a question is, what have we learned about expressing emotions while growing up? How does this free or confine us to the stereotypes of being a man? I mean, it's like, there's being a man, men don't cry, or men are tough, men are macho, those stereotypes. What happens to us when we do not express or work through our emotions? Like we just said, man, they can just blow up, and we can just start spewing out stuff to those around us. As my grandma says, like, when you're mad or when you're sour and angry, it's just like a fart. Really don't mean it to get on anybody else, but it just does. So I tell people, don't go farting on everyone out there, man. And what are some of the ways that we've tried to turn off our feelings? And we've talked about that by just shutting down, or even turning it off by getting extremely mad. That's a way to turn off, or shut down anger as well. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to express yourself and stuff. How does dealing with our feelings help us in any of our relationships? We talked about that. How do we deal in it? Because we're in a relationship. Each and every one of us, the three of us, we have partners. Doug and Johan have children, and I don't have children, but still I work with kids. I'm an uncle to so many kids, and they look up to me. And I've probably been people see me as an adopted dad too, and those things. And how does being in touch with your feelings help to be a better leader and more successful? And I'll tell you what, it's like each and every one of us were leaders in our own right. I see those quality leaders out there. They're able to express themselves and even able to show their successes, but also able to show that they're hurting because they're human. As like Johan said earlier, it's like being authentic, being an authentic human being, being an authentic man, And so, hey, would one of you guys want to talk about some of these teachable moments that are in this book here that we have as well? Let's just go over those real quick.
Yeah, just on one real quick note on, I just feel like emotions make everything deeper, like when I'm connecting with my wife, I'm connecting with you guys. When I step away from it and it's done, I'm like, oh, wow, man, I feel more whole. Because I connected with parts of myself that weren't just the ones that I'm, pretending like, oh, this is me, and I'm trying to do it, and da-da-da. It's like, no, I got real with myself, shared that realness. Man, it makes it rich. Like, it makes your life rich and your relationships rich. And I don't know, I was just, so, and one of these, on the back here, we call Living the Lesson. And one of them is to be aware of the range of emotions that exist and how you feel when experiencing different emotions. And I mean, we've been talking about that. There's such a huge range, a giant rainbow spectrum, and we got to allow ourselves to be more than just those few that our gender norms tell you that is okay to feel, because that's all BS, man. That's not real. That's just like some fake media world that's pushing that crap on us. And I refuse to take it anymore. I want to be myself.
Yeah. Key word is be aware. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, I love that. And the next one on the list is provide opportunities to share stories about how understanding your feelings helped you to become better at something. And this book, I've done this book with my son, who's 19 years old, and it created an opportunity for us to have conversation that I really didn't know how to have that how to start certain conversations, and that was okay. But having this tool and being willing to just go through these questions, and for young men in our communities and our lives and in our circle to be able to hear these questions, hear another man being able to ask and talk about emotions. I want to learn about emotions. This is a great resource, and it has helped me tremendously. And if used, everybody watching can do the same thing. This book is downloadable, and being able to just go through the book and just start this conversation, and provide opportunities to share stories. That was, one of your teachings, Gene, is that we're all storytellers,
Yeah.
ourselves and our children. And this has helped me create space to be able to have these conversations with our young men. And that's exactly what we're doing today, is just going through the book. So this is.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, so the next one after that is move beyond the initial feelings expressed to explore what lies underneath the feeling. What's going on? Because oftentimes the anger is like, there's times with my wife and I, we've had arguments, and to be honest with you, I can't remember what it is, what's about, even 5 minutes later. But sometimes it has to deal with just my own insecurities about being inadequate, about being made fun of less than, or whatever that is. So that's the underlying thing. It has nothing to do with her, what she said, or her feelings, but with me, totally with me. And it's my own stuff. And I have to own that and take a look at it, become aware of it. Because sometimes these feelings are in our blind spots and we don't even know them yet. And that's about, again, just to work it out and talking it out. And what's that next one, Doug?
It's so true. Just on that thought, a lot of times guys will be like, I'm stressed or I'm frustrated. But what is the emotion under that? That is important. So you got to dig down a little. Model safe and thoughtful ways of expressing and resolving feelings. And I honestly try to do this every day with my boys. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. But every moment, you're just trying to be your best self, and if you don't one moment, you come back and try again the next, because you know what? We're human beings. We're going to fail. You get up and try it again.
Right on.
Yeah. And that's absolutely, we committing to wanting to learn and to get better. I love that. Next one is support those around you who are expressing their emotions. And going back to that story, how this elder told me how he went up into the woods and he was able to express his emotions to the trees and just to verbally say them, because he doesn't feel comfortable with opening himself up with his circle. And that's okay. No one was going to judge him for that. What I was very moved that he was willing to share that story. And by me acknowledging that, I told him that is awesome. And I want to do that. That's that support that we got to give each other. And it comes in all forms, like how we expressed earlier on how we communicate. It doesn't always have to be through words. Our energy, our facial expressions, when just acknowledging each other and be supportive, because us growing up in this society, it's not the norm right now, but it was not the norm right now for a man to be supportive of one another. And I'll tell you what, having you brothers here support me when I'm talking about these things, it helps me. It helps my day go better. It helps people in my circle and my family being able to communicate with me, and because I'm a better person. And we want that for everybody. We want that for every single man and young man in our community and these young boys, to know that we got to support one another. We got to undo and unlearn what has been taught and say it's okay to feel these, you know, no matter what you feel. I support you.
Right on. You know, the last one, encourage young men or men to take responsibility for their feelings and how they express them. You know, and like oftentimes I hear these men say, "Oh, she just made me mad. She made me mad." I say, "No, she didn't make you mad. You chose, it's your choice. Because to be angry is a choice. To be happy, you know, or joyful in certain moments. Because I've seen people who are like in the hardest situations, man, and they're smiling. You know, because no, I know it's like life just sucks right now, but you know, gosh, I got a jacket. Now I got some food. You know, I got a house. You know, I got my health. You know, and but you know, those feelings are yours, man, and how you express them is yours. And learn about how to express them in a good way, in a healthy way, and you know, in a spiritual way, in a growing way. You know, and so you know, I just want to say, hey, you know, guys, Johan and Doug, I just want to say thank you, man. We can just we only tapped on just like a few of these topics with what we just did, a little bit of like knowing your emotions, you know, and I hope other people can pick up on these and share it. And I hope that whoever watches this can get some value from our words, and, you know, that's all we want. You know, maybe it's like, people won't even watch this, you know, right away, but maybe 10 years down the road, they'll go, "Hey man, check this out." That's, you know, it's like these guys, they put these videos out, you know, and they actually have something to say. It's kind of cool. So any last words before we close here?
I just want, you know, I want what's best for all of you out there. Thank you so much. If you made it this far, you are already awesome. You were awesome in the beginning, but I thank you. And man, I truly do love you and honor you. And I hope someday you'll come up to me, say hi.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just want to go off that as well. You know, thank you all for watching, you know, and we care about you. We support you. And there's a lot of great resources out there for us to be able to communicate with our men and our young men and the young boys in our lives. And we all want the best for them. I know that everybody watching wants the best for these young men and men in their lives to make good decisions, you know, and it's a lot of work, and it's a long path, and it's ongoing, and be okay with that, you know, but just know that when you're on that journey, it's a good journey, and we support you, you know, we always will.
Cool. And so with that, I would just want to thank you, Doug, thank you, Johan. And again, we're just like talking about the compass, a guide for men, and knowing your emotions. And so thank you so much. It's put out by the Alaska Network on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, male engagement. You can take a look at the website the network website, and for any other resources out there. So thank you, everyone. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Thank you so much, and be well, be wellness. Good night, Jish.